Welcome to Smart Reads in Minutes. Today we're diving into Turn Your Life into Art by Magister with a detailed chapter-by-chapter summary. Let's get started. Introduction: The Unseen Magic of San Francisco's Underground. The introduction sets the stage for the book's exploration of a unique artistic and cultural movement that flourished in San Francisco from roughly 1983 to 2015. The author, Magister, laments that the world largely missed this era, which remains underappreciated even by cultural historians. Unlike other art movements such as the Harlem Renaissance or Vienna's post-World War I coffeehouse intellectual scene, the San Francisco underground art movement defies easy categorization. It was not just about artistic expression, but about designing transformative experiences, events that transcended traditional performance or exhibitions and instead became deeply immersive and life-altering for participants. Magister argues that these artists refined the concept of experience design to an unprecedented level, creating what seemed like magic, moments of personal revelation and communal transcendence without the need for religious or institutional frameworks. This kind of artistic creation was not simply about aesthetics or storytelling, but about crafting encounters that could fundamentally shift a person's perception of reality. The book, he states, is his attempt to document and distill the techniques that made these experiences possible, preserving their wisdom before it fades away. Chapter 1: Entering the World of Experience Design. The first chapter introduces the foundational concepts of experience design through the lens of the San Francisco underground art scene. The author stresses that these artistic encounters were not passive entertainment, but dynamic events that required full engagement from participants. Unlike conventional theater, where the audience observes from a distance, the art experiences of this scene demanded interaction, sometimes even forcing individuals to confront deep-seated fears, desires, and psychological barriers. The chapter describes how these experiences could be anything from spontaneous street performances to intricately orchestrated multi-day events. The defining characteristic of this art form was its ability to tap into the participants' unconscious, creating a sense of wonder, unpredictability, and often personal transformation. Magister suggests that such experiences are not just about spectacle or shock value, but about opening doors to new ways of seeing and engaging with the world. This type of art blurs the lines between reality and fiction, challenging participants to reconsider the assumptions that shape their everyday lives. The chapter also sets up the idea that creating such experiences is an art in itself, one that requires careful planning, an understanding of human psychology, and a willingness to surrender to the unpredictability of the moment. The goal is not to script an outcome, but to create conditions where magic can emerge organically. Chapter 2: The Unexamined Psyche. This chapter delves into the psychology of immersive experience design, using a fascinating experiment with a Dungeons & Dragons D&D campaign as an analogy. The story revolves around a group of players who were given characters designed to embody their deepest aspirations, their personal heroic archetypes. However, instead of embracing these roles, the players struggled, sabotaging their own progress and falling into dysfunction. The experiment revealed a profound truth: people often resist stepping into the versions of themselves they most idealize. Magister connects this to the power of immersive experiences in the San Francisco underground scene, arguing that when people are placed in situations that require them to embody a different version of themselves, deep psychological resistance often emerges. This is not just about role-playing in a game, but about the way people respond to situations that challenge their ingrained self-image. The chapter suggests that great experience design must account for this resistance, finding ways to gently push participants beyond their comfort zones while creating a safe enough space for them to engage fully. whether through absurdist humor, ritualistic structures, or surreal scenarios. The goal is to create experiences that help people bypass their psychological defenses and access something more authentic within themselves. Chapter 3: The Art of Letting Go. This chapter explores the theme of surrender, both for the artist creating the experience and for the participant engaging with it. Magister emphasizes that one of the most powerful aspects of psycho-magical experience design is its ability to strip away control and certainty, forcing individuals to navigate uncertainty in a way that can be both terrifying and liberating. The chapter recounts several examples of art experiences in which participants were placed in situations that required them to trust the unknown. Whether through blindfolded journeys, sudden and unexpected shifts in narrative, or elaborate multi-layered hoaxes, these experiences disrupted the habitual way people engage with the world. In doing so, they created opportunities for genuine spontaneity and revelation, moments that could not be planned, but could only emerge in the absence of rigid structure. Magister also reflects on the difficulty of designing experiences that balance risk and safety. Too much predictability, and the experience becomes mundane. Too much chaos, and it ceases to be transformative and instead becomes overwhelming. The best psychomagical events, he argues, cultivate a delicate interplay between these forces, allowing participants to feel both disoriented and deeply engaged. Chapter 4: The Role of Archetypes and Symbols. In this chapter, Magister introduces the concept of archetypes and their crucial role in crafting immersive experiences. Drawing from Jungian psychology, he explains that the most powerful experiences tap into the collective unconscious, evoking symbols, myths, and narratives that resonate on a primal level. He describes how many of the most successful underground art events utilized archetypal structures, whether intentionally or intuitively. Some events borrowed elements from religious ceremonies, mystery cults, or shamanic rituals, creating an almost mythological resonance for participants. Others played with more contemporary archetypes: the trickster, the hero's journey, the initiation rite, offering participants a chance to embody roles that felt both deeply personal and universally recognizable. Magister suggests that great experience design is not just about novelty or spectacle, but about creating encounters that feel meaningful on an almost instinctual level. By engaging with symbols that have existed throughout human history, artists can craft experiences that feel profound, even if the participants don't fully understand why. The chapter closes with a reflection on the responsibility of the experience designer. When working with archetypes and psychological triggers, there is a risk of unintentionally causing harm or manipulating participants. Ethical considerations must be central to the process, ensuring that the experiences created are ultimately empowering rather than exploitative. Chapter 5: Meet the Daemon. This chapter delves into the idea of the daemon, a concept borrowed from ancient Greek philosophy that refers to an inner guiding spirit or force that propels individuals toward their true purpose. Magister introduces this theme through the story of Circus Ridiculus, a bizarre and deliberately talentless traveling circus in the 1990s, led by the legendary underground artist Chicken John. Unlike traditional circuses, this one celebrated the absurd and the anti-skill. Acts ranged from a man eating chicken, literally just eating chicken on stage, to a reverse stripper who started naked and seductively put on clothing while the audience chanted. The show was a direct challenge to conventional notions of entertainment, forcing the audience to rethink what constituted performance and engagement. Amid the circus's chaos, a pattern emerged. Certain participants and audience members found themselves profoundly changed by the experience. Some performers, despite their initial reluctance or lack of conventional talent, discovered their daemon, that force within them that drove them toward a deeper understanding of themselves. The chapter suggests that the best psychomagical experiences create conditions where people are confronted with something primal in themselves, something that resists logic but feels undeniably real. The story of Circus Ridiculus serves as a metaphor for how these experiences strip away artifice and force individuals to reckon with their deeper instincts, fears, and aspirations. Magister argues that experienced designers must learn to recognize and work with the daimonic forces within people, rather than trying to control every aspect of an event. The goal is not to create predictable, scripted performances, but to facilitate encounters where participants can experience moments of authentic revelation. The best designed experiences leave room for chaos, improvisation, and the unexpected, allowing individuals to meet their daemon in unpredictable ways. Chapter 6: The Power of Disorientation. This chapter focuses on the crucial role of disorientation in psychomagical experiences. Magister asserts that one of the most powerful tools an experienced designer has is the ability to shake people loose from their habitual ways of thinking. When individuals enter an unfamiliar or absurd environment, their usual frameworks for interpreting reality break down, creating a rare opportunity for transformation. He illustrates this through the example of Odyssey Works, an art collective that designs experiences for a single person at a time. These immersive, multi-week experiences are built entirely around the participants' subconscious, often leading them through a labyrinth of seemingly random encounters, riddles, and orchestrated coincidences. The goal is to create a state of hyper-awareness, where the participant begins to see meaning and significance in everything around them. The chapter also recounts a Burning Man experiment in which participants were blindfolded and taken to unusual locations, one natural, one artificial, then asked to describe their surroundings without using pre-existing labels. For example, when participants arrived at a beach, they were instructed not to call it the ocean, but to instead describe it as if they had never seen water before. This simple exercise forced them into a beginner's mind, an altered state where they perceived their surroundings in a radically new way. Magister argues that the success of these experiences hinges on balancing uncertainty with safety. If people feel completely untethered from reality, they may shut down or panic, but if they are only slightly disoriented, just enough to make them question their assumptions, they enter a liminal state where genuine insight and self-discovery can occur. The best experiences carefully walk the line between chaos and coherence, offering just enough structure to guide participants while leaving enough ambiguity for magic to emerge. Chapter 7: Success Looks Like Serendipity. This chapter explores a paradox at the heart of experienced design. The best experiences feel like serendipity, even though they are carefully designed. Magister begins with a surreal personal anecdote from Burning Man. After searching unsuccessfully for a highlighter, he left a camp only to be approached by a stranger who randomly handed him, of all things, a green highlighter. While this seemed like pure coincidence, he argues that such moments of synchronicity are not random at all, but are actively cultivated by good experience design. He extends this idea to the Lost Horizons Night Market, an illegal pop-up event where artists transform the backs of rented box trucks into immersive experiences. Attendees wander through a parking lot filled with unexpected adventures: a mini cinema, a reverse ball pit, a secret library. The event feels like stumbling upon a hidden wonderland, but in reality, every element has been intentionally constructed to maximize the likelihood of magical encounters. Magister explains that well-crafted experiences don't dictate exactly what will happen, but create conditions where extraordinary moments are likely to emerge. This is what he calls engineering disperfection. Designing experiences with just the right amount of randomness, surprise, and incomplete information, so that participants feel as though they are discovering something special on their own, rather than being guided by an invisible hand. The chapter also touches on the psychology of luck and meaning-making. When people experience unexpected moments that seem to defy probability, they often attribute meaning to them, whether spiritual, cosmic, or deeply personal. This is the essence of a successful psychomagical event. It leaves people feeling as though they have been touched by something larger than themselves. Great experience designers don't just create moments, they create contexts where people can imbue those moments with meaning. Chapter 8, Awe and Vulnerability. This chapter highlights the importance of awe and vulnerability in transformative experiences. Magister suggests that at their core, the most impactful events strip people down emotionally, making them feel open, raw, and exposed in ways that ordinary life rarely allows. This sense of vulnerability is what makes people more receptive to awe, allowing them to experience wonder, connection, and even personal breakthroughs. He contrasts the simplicity of one-on-one encounters with the increasing complexity of large-scale immersive experiences. While events like Circus Ridiculous or the Lost Horizons Night Market were elaborate and absurd, some of the most powerful moments of transformation come from something as simple as a single question asked at the right moment. For example, a well-timed invitation like, "Would you like to run away and join the circus?" can become a profound, life-altering proposition when asked in the right context. The chapter also critiques the tendency to overcomplicate experience design. Many artists and event organizers believe that making something bigger, more intricate, or more expensive will lead to deeper impact. But Magister argues that true magic happens in the simplest interactions, when people are fully present and emotionally engaged. The most profound psychomagical moments are often the ones that require no elaborate sets or expensive technology, just vulnerability, authenticity, and a willingness to embrace the unknown. As a final reflection, Magister suggests that the true metric of success in these experiences is whether participants walk away changed in some fundamental way. Whether through laughter, discomfort, or deep existential questioning, the goal is always to create something unforgettable, not because of its spectacle, but because it touched something raw and real in those who experienced it. Chapter 9. Moving from what and why to how. This chapter shifts focus from the philosophical and psychological foundations of psychomagical experiences to the practical methodologies of crafting them. Magister reflects on how many of the underground artists in San Francisco had an intuitive sense that something extraordinary was possible long before they had the vocabulary or techniques to bring these experiences to life. Many of them spent years experimenting, often without formal training or clear guidelines, until they gradually developed the skills necessary to design immersive, transformative experiences. Magister shares a personal anecdote from his time as a graduate student teaching composition at Purdue University, which he humorously describes as an institution where the humanities were given the same level of attention as a prison show choir. In this bureaucratic and uninspired educational environment, students were conditioned to produce the most minimal effort possible, parroting back expected answers without engaging in real thought. However, he discovered, almost by accident, that when students were placed in situations where they couldn't immediately discern what was expected of them, they began to think critically for the first time. This realization became a foundational principle in experience design. Confusion and ambiguity, when carefully controlled, can force participants out of their habitual patterns and into a state of genuine engagement. Magister argues that experience designers must move beyond simply defining what they are trying to create and why it matters, and instead focus on how to shape experiences that elicit deep engagement. This requires an understanding of human psychology, improvisation, and the ability to create scenarios that disrupt expectations just enough to spark curiosity and self-reflection. The key, he suggests, is not to provide answers, but to construct scenarios where participants must find their own. Chapter 10. Infinite Gardens versus Finite Robots. This chapter contrasts two fundamentally different approaches to experience design: the infinite garden and the finite robot. The infinite garden represents an open-ended, dynamic system where participants have the freedom to explore and shape their own experience. In contrast, the finite robot is a rigid, pre-programmed system that delivers a set experience with little room for spontaneity or personal interpretation. Magister illustrates this concept with a bizarre and darkly humorous story about a Silicon Valley billionaire who tried to purchase an entire block of houses for privacy, only to be thwarted by a single funeral home that refused to sell. Frustrated, the billionaire eventually bought them out, but the rapid eviction left the contractor with a building full of funeral equipment, coffins, embalming tables, and other remnants of the business. This unexpected windfall ended up in the hands of an underground artist named Chicken John, who transformed it into an absurdist performance piece called The Funeral Show. This event, framed as a joyous celebration rather than a traditional somber affair, turned a highly controlled corporate action into an unpredictable communal experience. Magister uses this story to highlight the power of improvisation, play, and subversion in experience design. The best psychomagical events, he argues, are infinite gardens, where participants feel a sense of agency and discovery. Unlike traditional entertainment, which functions like a finite robot, predictable and pre-scripted, the most impactful experiences allow for the unknown. This means designing for unpredictability, ensuring that each participant's journey feels unique and unscripted. The chapter also critiques the modern tendency to create overly structured experiences, whether in entertainment, corporate environments, or even social interactions. He suggests that true transformation requires letting go of control, allowing the experience to unfold in a way that feels organic and deeply personal to those involved. Chapter 11: The Structure of Chaos. In this chapter, Magister explores one of the paradoxes of psychomagical experience design: how to create experiences that feel completely spontaneous, while still maintaining an underlying structure. The key, he argues, is structured chaos, a carefully orchestrated environment that allows for unpredictability without descending into actual disorder. He illustrates this concept with an example from the night market, an event where artists transform the backs of moving trucks into surreal, interactive spaces. The event's magic came from its unpredictability. Each truck offered something different, from bizarre mini-cinemas to hidden libraries, and participants had no idea what they would encounter next. Despite the seeming randomness, every aspect was carefully curated to create the illusion of spontaneity while ensuring a coherent and immersive experience. Magister discusses the art of designing moments that feel serendipitous, but are, in reality, the result of intentional choices. This requires an understanding of human psychology, environmental cues, and the ability to guide participants without making them feel manipulated. He compares this approach to improv theater, where performers follow a loose structure but remain open to responding dynamically to the audience and their environment. Another key theme of this chapter is the role of constraints in fostering creativity. He argues that chaos becomes meaningful only when framed by limitations. The best psychomagical experiences establish clear rules or boundaries, not to restrict participants, but to create a sandbox for meaningful exploration. Without these constraints, chaos loses its transformative potential and becomes mere noise. Magister emphasizes that structured chaos works because it activates both order and spontaneity in the human mind. Too much structure, and an experience feels rigid and lifeless. Too much randomness, and it becomes overwhelming. The magic happens in the delicate balance between these forces, where participants feel both grounded and untethered at the same time. Chapter 12: The Magic of Unrepeatability. This chapter explores the power of ephemeral experiences and why the most profound moments are often those that cannot be repeated. Magister argues that psychomagical experiences derive much of their impact from their impermanence. When people know that something is truly once in a lifetime, they engage with it more fully, opening themselves up to deeper emotional and psychological responses. He shares the story of a ritual he designed for individuals transitioning out of a Burning Man leadership role. an experience meant to help them process their departure and find closure. The ritual involved fire, spoken words, and symbolic objects, culminating in a moment where the participant was forced to let go of something deeply personal. The experience was powerful because it was tailored to each person and could never be replicated in exactly the same way. Magister contrasts this with modern society's obsession with reproducibility, particularly in entertainment and commercial culture. From Hollywood sequels to amusement park rides, most experiences today are designed to be repeatable and scalable, ensuring they can be monetized indefinitely. But this, he argues, strips them of their magic. True transformation comes from experiences that are fleeting, where participants are fully present because they know the moment will never come again. The chapter also touches on the connection between unrepeatability and authenticity. When an experience is crafted to be unique, it forces people to confront their own emotions and reactions in real time. There's no opportunity to step back, analyze, or refine their response later. They must engage fully in the moment. This immediacy creates a psychological state where participants are more vulnerable, more open, and more willing to embrace change. Magister concludes by encouraging experienced designers to embrace impermanence as a core principle. Rather than seeking to create events that can be repeated endlessly, he urges artists to design moments that will be remembered precisely because they cannot be replicated. In doing so, they tap into something deeply human, the longing for the extraordinary, the fleeting, and the irreplaceable. Chapter 13. Encourage meaningful choices. This chapter explores the importance of giving participants authentic choices in experience design, emphasizing that a lack of real agency diminishes the impact of a psychomagical event. Magister begins by recounting an experiment by artist Richie Rhombus, who created a four-corner game that allowed participants to experience different levels of structure and freedom. One corner had both rules and structure, another had rules but no structure, the third had structure but no rules, and the last was a free-for-all. The results of this experiment highlighted how people interact with different constraints and how their choices shape their engagement with the experience. Magister contrasts this with the common issue in experience design, where people are led to believe they are making choices when, in reality, the outcomes are predetermined. Many immersive experiences rely on an illusion of agency, such as interactive theater productions, where participants' decisions subtly guide them toward a prescripted result. While these techniques can be effective for entertainment, they fall short in creating truly transformative experiences because they fail to honor the participants' autonomy. To illustrate the power of meaningful choice, Magister recounts an experience at the Fallen Cosmos, where 300 participants had to move to another area of an event space. Instead of being told to move, a musical cue was introduced that led the performers to suddenly stretch, yawn, and fall asleep. As a result, the participants naturally chose to move, believing it was their decision rather than an imposed directive. This subtle manipulation demonstrates the fine line between influencing and dictating choices. Ultimately, Magister argues that the key to designing profound experiences is not controlling outcomes, but creating environments where participants' decisions shape their journey. A well-designed experience does not push people toward a specific revelation, but creates conditions in which they can discover their own. Chapter 14. Gardens aren't safe. This chapter delves into the role of risk and danger in transformative experiences, arguing that psychomagical experiences require an element of unpredictability and challenge to be truly impactful. Magister opens with an anecdote about Chicken John's campaign for mayor of San Francisco, where he answered every debate question by blaming the city's problems on zombies. While absurd on the surface, this bizarre approach culminated in a staged zombie attack outside the debate venue, forcing candidates and spectators alike to respond in real time to an unexpected event. The experience became memorable because it broke the rigid structure of a formal debate and introduced real stakes. People had to decide whether to run, fight, or engage with the spectacle. Magister extends this metaphor to discuss how truly immersive and meaningful experiences are not safe spaces in the traditional sense. While safety is necessary in terms of physical well-being, psychological and emotional risk are crucial for transformation. He critiques the modern obsession with removing all risks from public and artistic spaces, arguing that this approach leads to sterile and forgettable experiences. Burning Man, for example, openly acknowledges that people may get injured or even die, yet it remains one of the most profoundly impactful cultural events in the world because it allows participants to engage with genuine challenges. The key takeaway is that artistic experiences must embrace risk, not recklessness, but carefully calibrated situations where participants feel like they are stepping into the unknown. Magister argues that true growth and self-discovery happen when people confront their edges, whether that means being thrown into an absurd debate scenario or facing the discomfort of an immersive performance that demands their participation. The challenge for experienced designers is to balance the tension between safety and danger, ensuring that participants can take real emotional or psychological risks without being harmed in ways that violate the intent of the experience. Chapter 15. This could never happen twice. This chapter explores the power of ephemeral, once-in-a-lifetime experiences, illustrating how their uniqueness makes them profoundly impactful. Magister recounts the story of Splitsville, a performance piece in which two performance artists, M.I. Blue and Katie Bell, broke up in front of a live audience. Unlike a scripted play about relationships, this was the actual moment of their breakup, happening in real time, with no rehearsed lines or staged drama. The audience was not just watching a performance, but witnessing an unrepeatable moment of raw, human vulnerability. As part of the experience, attendees were required to wear name tags listing their worst trait as a partner, labels like emotionally distant or clingy. This simple design choice created an introspective engagement, forcing the audience to reflect on their own relational flaws while watching the breakup unfold. Throughout the performance, friends of both individuals were invited on stage to defend them, making the experience deeply personal and interactive, rather than voyeuristic. By the end of the night, the relationship was over, and the moment could never be recreated. Magister connects this event to broader themes in experience design, emphasizing that truly transformative experiences must embrace impermanence. Modern culture, particularly in entertainment, is obsessed with reproducibility. Films are designed for sequels, events are structured for scalability, and even personal experiences are captured in endless photos and videos. Yet, it is often the moments that cannot be repeated that leave the deepest impact. He recounts a personal experiment where he designed a ritual for individuals transitioning out of a job, particularly those leaving the Burning Man organization. The ritual, which involved symbolic gestures like burning written messages, was designed to provide closure in a way that no standardized HR exit process could. Because the ritual was tailored to each person, it was unique every time, just like Splitsville. The chapter concludes with the assertion that the most memorable experiences are those that exist only in the present moment. Trying to replicate them dilutes their magic, while embracing their singularity gives them the weight of something sacred. Chapter 16. You're either in or out, except when you're not. This chapter reflects on the nature of belonging and exclusion in immersive experiences, using the setting of Burning Man to explore the tension between insider culture and radical inclusion. Magister opens with a haunting scene from Burning Man 2011, where a lone figure walks out to the furthest reaches of the playa, away from the thumping techno music and laser lights, trying to find solitude beneath the stars. Out there, far from the city of Black Rock, he begins to sing, a sailor's song of struggle and longing. The vastness of the desert amplifies his voice, and for a brief moment he imagines that the stars themselves are listening. But then reality crashes in. While his song will fade into the silence of the playa, the artificial neon-lit festival will be broadcast into space via radio waves. The thought is both tragic and profound. Magister uses this imagery to examine how subcultures and artistic communities negotiate inclusion and exclusion. Burning Man on paper is a radically inclusive event where anyone can participate. Yet in practice, there is a clear distinction between those who are in and those who are out, between seasoned burners who understand the culture and first-timers who struggle to navigate its unwritten rules. This dynamic is true of all immersive experiences, from underground art movements to secret societies. He discusses how some experienced designers intentionally cultivate a sense of exclusivity, making participation feel like a privilege rather than a given. The Jeju Institute, for example, drew people in by making its alternate reality game feel like a hidden world that had to be unlocked. The Latitude Society took this concept further, creating a secret society that only a select few could access, until it collapsed under its own weight. The chapter closes with a meditation on the paradox of inclusion. The most powerful experiences create a sense of belonging, yet that belonging is often strengthened by the presence of outsiders who don't get it. Magister suggests that experienced designers must walk a fine line. Too much exclusivity, and the experience becomes elitist and inaccessible. Too much openness, and it loses its mystery and depth. The challenge is to design experiences that invite people in while still making them feel like they have stepped into something rare and special. Chapter 17. The Holy Trinity: Art, Ritual, and Play. This chapter explores the three essential elements that make psychomagical experiences truly effective: art, ritual, and play. Magister begins by describing how art alone, even when deeply immersive, is not enough to create transformational experiences. A great museum might evoke awe or introspection, but without engagement beyond observation, its impact remains passive. What elevates an experience beyond mere art appreciation is its fusion with ritual and play, elements that allow for personal transformation, participation, and heightened emotional resonance. Ritual is presented as a way to give symbolic weight and structure to an experience. Whether rooted in religious traditions or entirely invented, rituals function as psychological tools that help participants transition between different states of being. Rituals create sacred moments where actions take on deeper meanings. Even something as simple as lighting a candle before entering an immersive space can shift participants' mindsets, preparing them for something significant. Play, on the other hand, dissolves inhibitions and allows for spontaneous discovery. Through play, participants engage with the unknown in a way that is free from judgment and expectation. Magister emphasizes that play is not mere amusement. It is a gateway to psychological flexibility and openness, making participants more receptive to the deeper elements of the experience. A powerful example is the Gates of Hell gatherings, where a group of artists would hold midnight picnics in front of Rodin's sculpture at Stanford. This simple act transformed the museum space into an interactive environment where participants recontextualized the meaning of the art through ritual and play. Ultimately, Magister argues that the most successful psychomagical experiences weave these three elements together in a seamless and intentional way. Art provides the aesthetic and symbolic foundation, ritual adds weight and meaning, and play ensures engagement and emotional connection. Experiences that fail to incorporate all three often feel lacking, either too rigid and serious, too chaotic and meaningless, or too passive to inspire lasting change. Chapter 18. Gary Warren's Chaotic Principles. This chapter focuses on the philosophy of chaos and risk-taking in experience design, as exemplified by Gary Warren, a key figure in San Francisco's underground art scene. Warren, the founder of the Suicide Club, developed a set of principles for radical engagement with the world that encouraged unpredictability, transgression, and the disruption of conventional reality. Magister argues that these principles are foundational for psychomagical experiences because they help break participants out of their habitual ways of thinking and interacting. The chapter describes a 2017 street performance in San Francisco's financial district, where artists transformed an ordinary city block into a surreal, immersive playground. Participants were greeted by people wearing blank sandwich boards, handed empty flyers, and invited to walk through an industrial bubble machine. They encountered surreal moments, such as a woman drinking coffee from an overflowing cup that never emptied, and a fake bus stop advertising an imaginary route from success to prosperity. Pedestrians who initially tried to ignore the absurdity found themselves drawn in, caught between curiosity and confusion. Magister argues that chaos is a necessary ingredient in transformative experiences because it forces participants to question their assumptions about reality. When confronted with an environment that defies logic, people become more open to new perspectives and unexpected discoveries. However, he warns that chaos must be carefully designed and curated to ensure that it leads to insight rather than mere confusion. Too much randomness can create frustration and disengagement, while too much structure can make an experience feel predictable and uninspired. The lesson of Gary Warren's principles is that true engagement happens at the edge of control and unpredictability. When participants feel just uncertain enough to be excited but not overwhelmed, they enter a state of heightened awareness where anything feels possible. Magister encourages experienced designers to embrace this balance, crafting spaces that invite spontaneity while subtly guiding participants toward moments of realization. Chapter 19: The Lazy Man's Guide to Starting a Cult. This chapter examines how group psychology and shared experiences create deep bonds between participants, often resembling the dynamics found in cults. Magister recounts the legacy of the Suicide Club, an underground group from 1977 to 1982 that pioneered many of the experience design techniques later adopted by San Francisco's alternative art movements. Unlike a traditional cult, the Suicide Club did not have a rigid ideology or a charismatic leader. It thrived on risk-taking, infiltration, and radical play. One of the club's favorite activities was infiltrating extremist organizations, pretending to be interested recruits in order to observe how these groups operated. While infiltrating the American Nazi Party was unsettling, their attempt to infiltrate the National Speleological Society, an organization dedicated to cave exploration, had an unexpected result. Instead of exposing the group as something sinister, they found that they genuinely enjoyed exploring caves. What began as a prank turned into a deep passion for underground exploration, ultimately merging the two groups. Magister uses this story to illustrate how intense shared experiences create real communities, whether or not they begin with serious intent. When people face challenges together, navigate uncertainty, and rely on each other for safety, they form strong psychological bonds. This is why rituals, initiations, and immersive adventures often resemble cult dynamics. They create an alternative reality in which participants feel more connected and alive than they do in their everyday lives. However, Magister warns that there is a fine line between creating meaningful group experiences and fostering dependency. Many of the most powerful immersive events, from Burning Man to underground art collectives, cultivate an intense sense of belonging. But that belonging should always empower participants rather than control them. He concludes that the secret to starting a cult in a responsible way is to create experiences that offer profound connection without demanding unquestioning allegiance. The goal is to liberate, not indoctrinate. Chapter 20: Honesty is the best policy. This chapter emphasizes that authenticity and emotional honesty are the most powerful tools in experience design. Magister contrasts spontaneous experiences with highly curated ones, arguing that both can be effective as long as they are rooted in genuine human emotion. He shares two examples, one meticulously planned, the other completely spontaneous, to demonstrate how honesty drives engagement. The first example takes place at the H.R. Geiger Museum in Switzerland, where Magister found himself sitting in a bar designed to look like the inside of a monstrous alien creature. A woman named Deborah, noticing his unsettling green cocktail, asked, "Does it taste like it looks?" a small but genuine moment of curiosity that sparked a deeper conversation. This seemingly trivial encounter illustrates how spontaneity and authenticity can transform ordinary interactions into meaningful experiences. The second example involves an elaborate initiation ritual designed for a secret society. Participants were invited to a hidden location, given a mysterious set of instructions, and guided through a series of increasingly surreal encounters. The experience was meticulously crafted to feel spontaneous, but what made it truly impactful was the raw, emotional honesty embedded in its final moments, a part where participants were asked to confront their own fears, regrets, or desires in front of others. Magister argues that the common thread between these two examples is the power of truth. Experiences do not need to be complicated or expensive to be transformative, they need to be real. Whether through an elaborate ritual or a simple conversation in a bar, the moments that stay with us are the ones that make us feel truly seen. He urges experienced designers to avoid manufactured drama or artificial profundity, focusing instead on creating spaces where people can express their truest selves. The chapter ends with a simple but profound lesson. The best psycho-magical experiences are those that strip away pretense, allowing participants to be completely present and vulnerable. Whether carefully designed or entirely spontaneous, experiences that lean into raw emotional honesty will always have the most lasting impact. Chapter 21. Let's review. This chapter serves as both a reflection on the book's core themes and a practical summation of what has been explored so far. Magister recounts an intriguing story in which his friend Elliot gives him a mysterious blank credit card, emphasizing the importance of absolute discretion. The card is an invitation to the San Francisco House of the Latitude, an immersive, secretive society that requires complete commitment to its rules. This anecdote serves as a metaphor for psychomagical experiences. They require trust, participation, and a willingness to engage with the unknown. The experience that follows is filled with rules designed to enhance the participant's sense of mystery and agency. Magister describes the meticulous instructions he received: arrive alone within a 5-minute window, use the card at a locked door, and disclose any relevant medical conditions. This level of carefully structured secrecy and exclusivity is what makes the experience feel powerful, personal, and transformative. The journey becomes a test of trust and commitment, reinforcing the idea that experiences gain impact when they demand something from their participants. Magister then shifts to reviewing the core ideas of the book, emphasizing that great psychomagical experiences blend art, ritual, and play. He reiterates that structured chaos, meaningful choices, and the embrace of impermanence are all crucial for crafting moments that feel alive. The chapter underscores that a well-designed experience should make participants feel like they are stepping into a different reality, one that challenges their assumptions and leaves them changed. The review also touches on the paradox of experience design, how to create something that feels spontaneous while being intentionally crafted. Magister warns against making experiences too safe or predictable, as they lose their transformative power. Instead, he advocates for designing interactions where participants must confront the unexpected, whether through symbolic risk, emotional vulnerability, or controlled uncertainty. He closes the chapter with the notion that psychomagical experiences work best when they feel like a secret adventure, something just beyond the reach of ordinary life. Chapter 22. What Happened to Us? This chapter delves into the broader cultural implications of psychomagical experiences, questioning what has changed in society that makes such experiences feel both more necessary and more difficult to achieve. Magister reflects on how art, ritual, and play have been increasingly commodified or restricted, leading to a loss of the spontaneous, chaotic, and deeply personal moments that define truly transformative experiences. The chapter begins with Magister's encounter with an old friend, Misa, who requests a small art experience for a mutual friend. This request highlights a growing desire in modern society for moments of genuine engagement, particularly as people feel increasingly disconnected from meaningful interactions. Magister frames this as a response to the rigid structures of contemporary life, where most experiences are either prepackaged, commercialized, or heavily mediated through digital screens. People are starved for experiences that feel immediate, surprising, and personal. He discusses how modern institutions have slowly eroded spaces for true artistic and ritualistic engagement. Bureaucracy, safety regulations, and commercialization have turned many experiences into sanitized, predictable events, stripping them of their raw emotional impact. Festivals that once felt like radical experiments have become corporate-sponsored spectacles, and underground art scenes that once thrived on spontaneity have been absorbed into mainstream culture. Magister argues that the human desire for transformation has not diminished, but society has made it harder to access. He sees the rise of immersive theater, escape rooms, and alternate reality games as an attempt to recapture something primal, an unmediated, full-body experience of the unknown. However, he warns that many of these experiences, while enjoyable, fail to reach the depth of true psychomagical experiences because they prioritize entertainment over personal revelation. The chapter closes with a call to reclaim the art of real, participatory experiences. Magister suggests that those who seek to design these moments must learn to work against the constraints of modern culture, creating spaces where people can once again feel raw, vulnerable, and engaged in a way that no digital medium or scripted entertainment can provide. Chapter 23. Learning from the Trickster. This chapter explores the role of the trickster archetype in experience design, emphasizing that disruption, absurdity, and controlled chaos are essential elements of transformative experiences. Magister presents the trickster not as a simple prankster, but as a figure who shatters expectations to reveal deeper truths. He recounts an experience where he and a group of collaborators staged a fake initiation ritual for new members of a secretive art society. The ritual was elaborate, featuring absurd rules, cryptic symbols, and a sense of ominous importance. However, at the last moment, it was revealed that the entire initiation was meaningless, a complete fabrication designed to force participants to question their own assumptions about authority, belonging, and meaning. Magister argues that the trickster's power lies in its ability to expose hidden truths through play and deception. Many of the most profound experiences occur when people are forced to let go of their expectations and engage with the unknown on its own terms. Trickster energy, he suggests, is the antidote to overly structured, predictable experiences that fail to challenge participants. The chapter also explores how trickster energy has been systematically removed from modern culture, particularly in education, business, and public life. The unpredictable, chaotic elements that once made public spaces exciting have been replaced by risk-averse, highly controlled environments. This shift has made it more difficult for people to experience spontaneous moments of awe, confusion, and revelation. However, Magister notes that trickster energy is never truly extinguished. It resurfaces in underground art movements, subversive performances, and acts of cultural rebellion. The challenge for experienced designers, he argues, is to harness this energy in a way that creates profound experiences, without descending into mere pranks or chaos for its own sake. He concludes by urging artists to reintroduce playfulness, mischief, and structured disruption into their work, ensuring that participants are constantly being nudged toward new ways of thinking and feeling. Chapter 24. Psychomagic, God, Therapy, and You. In the final chapter, Magister tackles the deeper existential questions surrounding psychomagical experiences, framing them in relation to spirituality, therapy, and personal transformation. He begins with a bold assertion. Modern art and experience design have taken on the role that religion once played in people's lives. In a world where traditional religious structures have eroded, people still seek rituals, moments of awe, and encounters with the unknown, but they now look for these experiences in art, immersive events, and personal exploration. Magister discusses how psychomagical experiences function as a kind of secular spirituality, providing participants with cathartic, symbolic, and deeply personal moments of revelation. Whether through immersive theater, underground art happenings, or large-scale festivals like Burning Man, people are searching for something beyond themselves, an experience that can redefine their relationship to reality, identity, and meaning. He contrasts psychomagic with traditional therapy, noting that while therapy focuses on rational analysis and self-awareness, psychomagical experiences bypass logic and engage the unconscious directly. Instead of asking participants to talk about their problems, these experiences throw them into symbolic situations that force them to confront their fears, desires, and personal narratives in real time. The chapter also touches on the dangers of misusing psychomagical techniques, warning that experiences designed without ethical consideration can manipulate rather than empower. He stresses that psychomagical experiences should never seek to control people, but rather create conditions for personal discovery. Magister concludes by affirming that the future of transformative experiences lies in their ability to integrate art, ritual, and play into something deeply meaningful. He encourages experienced designers to approach their work with sincerity, responsibility, and an openness to the unknown, recognizing that the best experiences are those that allow participants to discover something about themselves that they never knew before. And that's a wrap on Turn Your Life into Art by Caveat Magister. If you found these insights valuable, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. I'd love to hear your biggest takeaways. And if there's a book you'd like me to summarize next, let me know in the comments. See you in the next one. With much love and gratitude.